The goal, as stated by the President of the United States last night, is to destroy them. Destroy them. That means they're gone, right? Remember who they were. First there was Al-Qaeda, then there was Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and Al-Qaeda in Iraq is now what we're all calling ISIS, right? What is destroy? Joining us now from D.C. is Fox News contributor and former Ambassador Dennis Ross. He served as a special assistant to President Obama and a special advisor to former Secretary of State Clinton. He also served as senior director of the National Security Council's Central Region, along with other top roles that date way back to the Reagan administration. Sir, it's nice to see you again.
Nice to be with you. Thank you.
The goal, according to the president, is to destroy them, and yet history tells us that these groups can exist in very small numbers in a very weakened state for years and years and years. So if your goal is to destroy them, knowing that reality, is this a war without end?
Well, it certainly is a war that's not going to end right away. When you declare that something's a cancer, your choice is not to contain it. Your choice and your option has to be to eradicate it. That can't be done overnight. It can't be done solely by us. It does require countries in the region, and particularly the Sunni-led countries in the region, and the Sunni tribes, who in fact fought, as you were saying, Shep, fought Al-Qaeda in Iraq, which was the precursor of ISIL. They fought them in 2007 and, in fact, defeated them at that time, obviously with our help. And I think that's what's required again. We will have to act, but we will need the Sunni tribes to take on ISIL. We will need the Sunni states to join with them. And these are, I think, some of the steps the administration is focused on right now. And it is, I think, the right way to go, because it cannot be something that by ourselves we'll be able to achieve.
Well, we've declared them a cancer. We've said that they could become a threat to the homeland, that they are a threat and have threatened our people, and yet we're farming out the groundwork to others. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I think, again, I think we have to look at how we define the nature of the threat to us. Clearly, there comes a point where if we decide that it, in fact, is going to be a threat to the homeland, then we'll do whatever we have to do on our own. But if the aim is, in fact, to sort of, at this point, roll them back, slowly defeat them, because you're not going to defeat them overnight, you can't do it by yourselves, and it's also not solely a military job. They have to be discredited, they have to be delegitimized, they have to lose the appeal they've had to Sunni tribes, and again, let's understand what produced them. Bashar al-Assad produced them, and Nouri al-Maliki produced them. Both of them effectively carried out wars, in the case of Assad, a very brutal war against the Sunnis, but Nouri al-Maliki basically cut them all out as well and suppressed them, and the net effect of that was to create a sense that anybody was better than Assad and anybody was better than
Not
Maliki.
true.
So the key, right, but the key, I think, therefore, is to win these Sunni tribes back so that they will take them on and not provide them a base from which to operate. We're going to have them play part of the role, and we're going to need states like the Saudi Arabia to play a role as well, because ultimately delegitimizing ISIL is the key to being able to destroy them over time.
It feels like sometimes we're operating without knowledge of history, and sometimes maybe without even a rearview mirror, because anything was better than Saddam Hussein until we got what was created after that happened. And then we armed the Iraqis, and they couldn't stand up. Their weapons went over to ISIL. And now we are about to arm what appears to me to be some sort of fantastical group of moderate Syrian rebels, a group which, to my knowledge, after a lot of research, does not exist as a thing. It's a lot of little different groups, all with different sorts of strategies, all for different ideas, all with different goals, all with different hates, who have so far, according to our intelligence over there, proved to be untrainable. And yet we are about to train them to do the groundwork for us with our weapons, which, I don't know, maybe end up in ISIL's hands at some point. It seems like we're just operating without a rearview mirror.
Well, I think you raise a point that is always good to keep in mind. There should be a constant set of lessons that we learn. There should be a constant willingness to look at the assumptions we make and question them and see whether reality is validating those assumptions or not. At this point, I would say the opposition in Syria, as you put it correctly, is highly fragmented. Part of that opposition is prepared to fight ISIL and at the same time fight the Assad regime. One of the reasons it's important to support those elements of the opposition who are fighting ISIL and Assad is partly because in the end they'll have more credit on the ground than we would, and partly also because in a sense we do not want to benefit Assad. The reality is that, as I said, Assad helped to create ISIL in the first place, and ISIL has been selling oil to the Assad regime. There are, in fact, those who I think, had we provided them support earlier, might have been more capable today, right? It's better to do something at this point than not to do it at all. And we do need allies in the end in Syria, because if you're going to defeat ISIL in Syria, you also have something, you need something that will replace it. So you can't just leave a vacuum, and that actually gets to the issue you were raising. When you look in the rearview mirror, when we go in and we carry out some of these fights, if we leave a vacuum, it's going to be filled. And when it gets filled, it's going to be filled by forces we're not going to be too happy to deal with unless, in fact, we've done a lot of coordination and work with those groups in advance.
Yep, it's a sad state of affairs, Mr. Ambassador. Thanks very much.